Being shared. Okay, cool. Sounds like the screen is indeed working. So thanks for joining. Today we're going to talk about setting up different kinds of advertising campaigns through found.e. Now the walkthroughs are really, really fast. It takes literally about 30 seconds to set up any kind of campaign, a prospecting campaign where you can get on really premium websites like the Rolling Stones and pitchforks and complexes of the world, as well as audio ads on the Spotify's and iHearts of the world, or remarketing. It's really simple, takes about 30 seconds, maybe even less to set up a remarketing campaign, where you can target your fans that have shown an intent to buy, for instance, specifically buy on Amazon or from your e-commerce or something along those lines. And so since this take about 30 seconds each, I wanted to go through a few things about how and when to apply these types of advertising campaigns, and how they relate to each phase of the buying funnel. The buying funnel, of course, awareness, consideration, acquisition, as you can see here on the screen, and then at the very bottom, retention. But that's a bigger sort of standalone conversation, I think. So we'll be reserving that one mostly for the next webinar. But at least you'll see along the way how you can be building audiences for now and for any future campaigns, which a lot of found.e users do very successfully. And so to keep things pretty straightforward, we're going to focus on, I think we're going to focus on a pretty typical album campaign process and buying funnel. I will say though that basically everything that we're going to see here does apply to, I would say, just basically anything that that you'd want to promote or market or advertise in the music space. It actually applies very much so outside of the music space as well. A lot of these practices, performance and the buying funnel stuff are they really come from like CPG and different industries that are very, very, very good at ultimately driving consumption. And yeah, so some of the things we're talking about are from the agenda: the rule of 7, how to increase the odds of success, how to divide your budget through each stage of the album cycle, when to leverage prospecting, remarketing, audio ads, and why, and also what's prospecting, because that one I think is kind of a funny word to use, but it's what people use, so we're using it, and how to select the right creative. Really specifically, how to select the right creative as it relates to each phase of the buying funnel. Because oftentimes, in looking at the list of who's signed up today, when you work with a band and you know what they're going for, the people on this webinar today are usually very well poised for creative success. I'm seeing a lot of really amazing banner ads and landing pages come through our platform and outside of our platform for years at this point. And I'll even walk you through a couple of these today. So starting with the buying funnel. So we're looking at the 3 phases: awareness, consideration, acquisition, primarily today. Along the way, everything we do, everything we talk about are going to be designed for retention as well. So all your efforts aren't just isolated to this one campaign, this one album cycle. And you'll see along the way that if you've been working with found.e for a while, a lot of people on this webinar today have been found.e users for 5-6 years at this point. And it's good to see you on the webinar. Thanks for coming. You probably have a lot of really amazing audiences, fan audiences that you guys have been able to amass over that time that you can always be able to refer back to. Let me close that. So starting at the awareness phase, again, we're talking about an album cycle in this case. So in the awareness phase, this is obviously when, typically speaking, there's going to be some sort of a press announcement, maybe a press premiere as well. And there's social media announcements. Basically use everything that you have in your arsenal. So use your eCRM, because for the most part, that's free. Social and newsletter, there's much smaller costs associated with that. Use that. But while you're doing that, it's really good to be able to use things like links to be able to drive people to, so that as there is a press release and subsequently press pickup, anybody that you're driving to, let's say the Apple Musics of the world or the Spotify's or really anything, you have an opportunity to capture and build those audiences. And you know that those audiences are being built along your album campaign. So this is going to come in very, very handy. And now you also have the ability to drive people to landing pages. Landing pages are really good experiences, I think, at the awareness phase of the buying funnel in particular. I'll give you an example of one that we saw very recently. We just thought this was wonderful and beautiful. And honestly, it only took a few seconds to create, which is amazing. It was really about the creative in this case. And so this is a really good example of what you might do very early on in the introduction, in the awareness phase, trying to bring people from awareness into consideration. So in this case, if there were a press premiere or something along those lines, some press pickup, you're driving people to a landing page where they get to immediately experience music or something directly inside of your landing page. Then of course there are outbound links that take people to another platform of their choice. And it's always really good to have some information about why they should care as well. Obviously, the music will do a lot of that for you, but it's very good to explain to people why they should care, something interesting about the artist, about that specific album release. And as I mentioned, everything that you use from the platform, it's building your audiences. So in this case, as I went to this page, I'm firing whatever pixels the artist or really the management is using for this landing page for this campaign. Or if we engage a link or something along those lines, the same thing is true. And then there are also, I'm going to try to go through these pretty quickly because I think I showed people on the last webinar. But the other way that you build audiences are by having a completely slow internet connection to be able to click these buttons. Okay, come on. The other way you do that is by oftentimes a press premiere that might be for a new music video or a SoundCloud streaming widget or something along those lines. And the embeds allow you to capture everybody that reads the article using an embed as opposed to sending the widget directly. You would simply create one of these like I just did there, and then you grab this code and you ask the publicist to share that instead. And so, yeah, these are a lot of things that you do in the awareness phase of the buying funnel. The other thing, of course, that you can do is you can run advertising. You can run advertising and reach tens of thousands of people you wouldn't have otherwise reached very, very quickly. And in our case, through found.e, very inexpensively and efficiently as well. So the next phase that you see is consideration. This is, of course, just so we're all in agreement on the same page. During the consideration phase, we're talking about, excuse me, during the consideration phase, we're talking about how you might be you might have these other key moments. Maybe it's a second single or new music video. Maybe it's a Jimmy Kimmel appearance or something along those lines. But you are these are the key moments along between the announce and the actual on sale or for the release itself, where you can continue to engage the people that you've already brought into the buying funnel from the awareness portion of the campaign. And also, these are key moments that you can use to bring more people into the buying funnel. One of the really amazing ways that you can reach people, of course, because we're talking about advertising today, is by running remarketing advertising. So, perhaps you've been able to set up a pretty awesome top of the funnel campaign. You're bringing a lot of people in from press premieres and from social media and newsletter, and all these people are aware. But it's hard to reach those people again using just owned and earned media press. It'd be very nice if you can just, make sure the publicist is specifically able to get the second premiere or something in front of the same people that saw the first time around, plus some new ones. That becomes very difficult. So one of the ways you can do that is through remarketing. And one of those ways that you can set up remarketing campaigns is with these audiences. These are very quick. This is my account. I don't I don't have a band, so you can see some small numbers, unfortunately. Some of these audiences are shared with me so that I have some bigger numbers, but just for the sake of demos and such. But this will give you the opportunity to reach people that have, specifically begun, I don't know, watching your new music video or something along those lines. So you can very quickly come into the audiences. You can press the plus button, and we are already 20% the way through setting up and advertising a remarketing campaign targeting the people that just watched your new music video. And then, of course, this drives us into the acquisition phase of the buying funnel. The same thing is true. You can use these same audiences. The very cool thing I think at this phase, as it relates to remarketing, is you want to drive people to purchase or to stream when the time comes, right? Really the whole time, of course, but at the very end, when you have the whole album on the Spotify's and Apple's, you're gonna get a lot better return because people can listen to more songs or the whole song, the whole album at that point. Also, you can do things like separate these audiences out. So you don't want to drive people that specifically want to go to Amazon. In my case, it's not a whole lot, but hopefully in your case it is a whole lot. And you want to drive those people directly to Amazon, not to a streaming platform. And if you are running oops, let's press some bad buttons, or if you're driving people to streaming, you want to drive Spotify users to Spotify, you want to drive Apple users to Apple. So remarketing really helps keep those separate for you, so that when the time comes, you can press one button and just specifically target those folks. I think so my audiences are small. I can tell you though, when I was running our digital marketing agency, the Found Group, years ago, we had a lot of really awesome campaigns that we were working on, that we were able to work on along the way, some of which I'm going to touch on today as well. But one of those was Marilyn Manson. I believe it's the A Pale Emperor album campaign. By the time we went to launch the album campaign, there were literally tens of millions of fans that have engaged his album campaign. And at the end of the day, to reach tens of millions of people becomes very expensive. So really, what you want to do is reach the most qualified audiences. And using found.e and just a whole lot of elbow grease, we're able to drill down and identify who is showing an interest in purchasing the bundle package versus who is interested in purchasing on iTunes versus who is interested in streaming on Spotify. And that allowed us to get our advertising dollar much, much, much more targeted, much more qualified, so that we were able to drive a really amazing return on investment for that campaign. So these audiences are doing that for you. At the end of your campaign, you'll have the opportunity to set up and run a pure acquisition-based advertising campaign, and you can send people exactly where they need to go. So speaking of all of that sort of pretext, I guess it'd probably be good to get into how to set up these campaigns. And one of the questions people have asked us since the last webinar, and just kind of always, is when is it good to run prospecting? And in this case, let's just look at what prospecting is. So the answer to that question is when you need to build an audience. So if you have 10 million Facebook likes, it's very easy to, very, very inexpensive to build an audience. Of course, we don't get to wield that quite as well as we used to, before a lot of these sort of throttling algorithms that they've introduced and stuff like that. But do you have 10 million likes? If not, you're probably not going to build your audiences as fast as you want to. So prospecting is a really, really, really great way of being able to do that. I'll show you an example of prospecting really quickly. So I'll make this just pretty fast. I'm going to do discovery here, and we'll go into what these discovery ads are and stuff like that as well. But I will target United States, and you can target anywhere. The inventory is available all over the place. I think it's like 99% of the internet, basically. So I'll run a very quick campaign. So I'm targeting all music discovery in this case. And on the right-hand side, you see it starts to build out a bit of an insertion order for you. If you guys have worked with agencies in the past, hopefully they're kicking out insertion orders for you at the very end of this. And it tells you what your bidding methodology is, and you know some assumptions and stuff like that. Builds out your daily spend and things along those lines. Now, we're going to get a little bit better at explaining what these things are. There's supposed to be a hover state that explains these, but discovery is really used as a driver of engagement. So these are used when you want to generate as much awareness as possible. Again, you can do this inside of your individual genres. You can pick, you know, Americanas or countries or EDMs or rocks or indies or whatever it is you want. And so you want to use a discovery ad when you are trying to drive as much awareness as you possibly can, pulling as many people as you can into your buying funnel. It goes a lot further with your budget. And we're seeing a lot of campaigns where, you know, people are getting 6 cent to 15 cent CPCs running these. And if the platform itself, as you can see, since it's building all this information out, we're auto optimizing basically everything for you. So there are things to consider, like you know, whether or not something is above the fold or the placement or something along those lines. Let me grab one of these awareness banners. I think yeah, this is a good one. Sleeping with Sirens. Yeah, so there are things like frequencies and placements above the fold, being able to discern whether or not people are, it has the right viewability, and you know, are these websites the types of websites that people stop for a moment and click on. So we're doing a lot of that for you automatically to make life much, much easier. So you don't have to go through, especially if you have a $500 budget, and try to pull levers all day, every single day. So that's it. I'm just finished an advertising campaign. I stopped to talk too much, but it would have taken about 30 seconds to do it. Of course, you can set up as many advertisements as you want. You can set up, you know, we recommend 5 banner ad sizes, which actually I'll show you again. Let's see. And while I'm doing it, let's do a premium campaign so that I can show you the difference between that one and excuse me, that one and a discovery campaign. So let's see, we'll pick something else. I'm going to pick rock. I've been seeing a ton of rock come through. So if you hover over and click these 3 dots, you'll see on the right hand side, these are the websites that are being targeted. So we're looking at MTVs and Pace and Pitchforks and Billboards and Pandoras and Spins and Stereogums. You might decide, all right, well, I don't want this one and this one and this one for the day, and you can save that if you'd like to. You can also go in and you can add domains. So is there a premium domain that we haven't listed as of yet? Well, just come in and type it in and then click save, and you would be done there. But in this case, I'm just going to go to Rock Premium, and I'm going to select United States again. And say, here's my $500 budget, and I'll give it a flight date of, let's see, I don't know, 6 days or so. 5 days, yep. It's going to automatically build out your daily budget for you. It's going to give you the estimated number of impressions. Now, what you see on the right-hand side is actually the bid. We have a lot that we have to do in order to get you guys very awesome placements. I will tell you though, although it says $12 CPM, and those of you that have run ads directly on the Rolling Stones and the complex of the world, you know the blended CPM is actually about $17. So discounted, right? Yeah, that's cool. Our average is actually $2.54 out of the thousands of campaigns that have been set up this year. Nobody has spent $12 CPMs, not one campaign as of yet. They are $2. They've been $2.54 averages. Some people have gotten $1.90 CPMs on websites like Rolling Stone. In fact, RollingStone.com for the last couple of months has been the #1 placement because people really want to run ads there, and they are targeted, and they're saturated very much. So let me check out another banner ad. Let's see. So you know, there's a lot of different types of banner ads that you can run in the awareness phase. I hope you guys can see this on the right. Let me do that. Okay, that might help a little bit. There we go. So you can do something that has you can do something that has really, beautiful art. You can do something that has something really simple art. You can do whatever really fits your brand. In this case, this was a banner for Andrew Bird campaign. Great album. I mean, all of his music's been really wonderful. I'm a huge fan, actually. So I wanted to show this one. But I hope you guys got a chance to see the animated GIF that just happened. But the idea here is that I'm trying to make people aware by saying who this is, what it's about, and when the album is coming out. Now, there's also, of course, along the way, you have every opportunity to have a strong call to action, like pre-order now, or stream Capsize, or whatever it is you need. Awareness and consideration don't have to just, well, first of all, every banner period should have a call to action of some sort. You need to give people a place to go. Banners can't actually run without that anyways. Aside from that, as long as you're reaching people in the awareness phase and you're telling them about what it is that you're trying to offer them ultimately, then you're taking a great first step, which is making people aware. But then drive them somewhere, take an action if you can. That's something that's exactly what you want to be able to do. So I feel like, let's see. Oh, audio. Oh no, I think I've been stuck on prospecting for a while. Sorry. Okay, so remarketing. I started touching on that one a little bit earlier. You can start in your audiences section. But the question that people had is, when do you run remarketing? And the answer to that is once you've built an audience. We give you so many tools to be able to build audiences. My advice is always be building audiences. ABBA, ABBA. Yeah, that works. So as you share links, you're building audiences. As you create and share pages, here's a page, the awareness into consideration page. Here is an acquisition-based page. This is, hey, the new music's out. Go buy it. Go stream it. Go take this action now. It's already ready for you. Here was a landing page that was designed for Lindsey Sterling. This was a really interesting use case because you can see that they are now in the acquisition phase. But when this first launched, actually, on the right-hand side in this YouTube section, there was a YouTube premiere, and they were using this as a way of generating awareness around Underground and building audiences the whole time. And then they use it as a destination. So when the music video was released, they just updated, actually I think YouTube just updated, but then they added other things like tour dates and all their buttons and stuff. But I thought that was a really interesting way to use landing pages. So once you have the audience, that's when you can run your campaigns. That's when you can use your remarketing. My audiences, again, are very small, and these aren't my audiences. So I'm not going to use any of these for real. But you can use them once they're really any size, but we recommend into the couple of thousand at the very least. You're going to see just much better effect. If you have 1,000 people in your audience, spread it throughout the world, the bidding methodology just has a very hard time reaching that 1,000 people spread around the world. So let me take you through a campaign very quickly. found.e login remarketing. This is let's see. United States. I'm not going to run this because they're not really real audiences, but I'll take you right up to the point. So here, and again, I'm not going to run this. So new language. Don't get mad at me. I'm just going to click a button here. I'm not going to finish. Oh, you know what? What do I have here? Oh. I have a Still an SO banner ad that ran through the platform. This is a pure consideration banner ad. This is for your consideration. In fact, and in this case, I'm not targeting an audience that would make any sense for this. But this is how you set up and run an advertising campaign, and voila! Now we would be running a remarketing campaign very, very quickly, and using a pure consideration-based remarketing campaign. I think a much more effective way to do that, of course, let me give you a better example, would be, let's say I want to target my, just say Spotify. Voila. US high propensity Spotify. And again, a lot of these are already built for you. So you have 45 audiences in your audiences section of your dashboard from the very first time you create an account. You can build an infinite number of combinations as well. So once again, go into here and voila. So in this case, that doesn't make any sense. Let's go Spotify. There we go. So we just set up a Spotify remarketing and advertising campaign in, I think, all of 30 seconds or so. If I click finish, we would run a remarketing campaign targeting Spotify fans and driving them to Spotify in that case. But you use them to do everything that you can. So you can send Amazon users to Amazon. You send people that have shown an interest in buying your tickets to go buy tickets. And of course, you can build those audiences out. This was an audience that was shared with me for sake of a previous webinar. And it's just, here are the people from London that have shown an interest in ticketing. Okay, cool. How do we run that? Well, that one plus button, and voila, we are 5 seconds into what it would take, 30 seconds to finish. And then finally, when is it good to run audio? Great question. I think the answer is it's always good to run audio. The great thing about audio is that it's sort of your opportunity to give people a free sample. Yeah, sure, it's an ad, but it's an ad that's really great at branding and recall, and hopefully is exposing new prospective fans directly to what should be the catchiest moment of your single. But to get maybe a little more specific, then it's always good. I would say, especially with limited budgets that we're all working with, some of the best times to run Spotify or any sort of audio are at the awareness phase and at the acquisition phase. And see, you got some hip hop here, and there we go. I'm going to pick US. I could pick Portland, Oregon, because I'm about to show you the actual creative from a campaign we ran, which you can find the results of on our website on the blog section, where this artist called Sapient, who has an amazing song, actually a lot of amazing songs. I think he's on tour currently in Europe. But we used, I'm just going to put this in for right now. Obviously, we wouldn't send people just to the homepage. We send people to the song, album, playlist, something along those lines. We were able to use Spotify audio ads to help increase his listenership in his hometown of Portland. Drove it from number 16 to number 2 as the top city on Spotify, which is 1 week worth of advertising. Now, the win always, if you can. But in awareness, the reason why you want to do it in awareness is because you're able to really give people a sample of the whole of what you're trying to put out, pull people into your funnel, build your remarketing audiences along the way. The more people you drive in at the top of the funnel, the more you can usher through the buying funnel, of course. The other really great time is acquisition. And the acquisition phase is really good because you have a whole album, hopefully, or an EP or whatever it is. You have a lot of music that's now out. And so as you drive people in, they're not listening to just one new song. Hopefully they're listening to 2, 3, 4, 5. They're saving the album. They're following you and that sort of thing. There's just more opportunity for them to engage more from your efforts. And so I think awareness and acquisition are really good times to run audio. And that's Spotify, that's iHeart, that's really anything. We have a few other audio platforms to come. So, okay, we are a little more than halfway through, 65% done, I promise. So how do you divide your budget? This is a really great question, I think, to ask. So it's very difficult to give a single response without knowing all the variables. Is this the second album? Have fans been following them? Are they doing live performances? Are they, are they getting some radio? Like, you can't just answer the questions like saying how long is a string, right? However, you can say, how do you divide your budget pretty clearly? And the answer to that is, we pulled a lot of marketing experts, people that run departments at major labels, indies, at management companies. Also, my agency practice this quite frequently, and that is a split of 30, 20, 50. This is a bit fungible. There's a caveat, but generally speaking, most people agree that if you start with the breakdown of 30, 20, 50, you are in a very good place. And you can make that a little bit different. Maybe it's 25, 25, 50, or 30, 30, 40, or something like that. But right around 30, 20, 50 is how these things work best, typically. And what I mean by that is you spend the second highest amount, the 30%, of your budget at the very beginning of the campaign in the awareness phase. Now, you use this to help augment everything else that's taking place. So press is helping you get pickup and reach new people. You have the embeds, you have the links that are being generated and or clicked on. Those are building your audiences. The more people you can grab at the top of the funnel, the longer you get to nurture them in the consideration phase of the buying funnel. The more you get to influence them along the way. Really, the more of the story they get. You know, that you guys are putting things out in sort of real time. You know, so if you pull them in at the top of the funnel, you have a lot more opportunity to really guide them through this narrative that you're telling, the awareness, consideration, acquisition narrative. And yeah, so then we say about 20% is usually good to reserve for the consideration phase. Now, this really depends. Some artists have, you know, 2, 3, 4. Some artists have one thing that takes place between the album announce and the album release. So it gets a little dull to the users that you're continuing, or the fans you're continuing to tell the exact same message to. But if you have 2 or 3 key moments along a campaign, you know, maybe 4 or 5 key moments along a campaign, then you could certainly increase the consideration percentage from 20 to 25, 30% or something along those lines. Every time, as we mentioned, you have a key moment along a campaign, the new video, the new single, that remix, that live performance, that whatever it is, those are all opportunities for you to build on that connection you have. But there are also opportunities for you to reach new people and bring them into the buying funnel. And so the more you reach and pull them in, again, the more people you have at the very end, which is where we say you reserve the lion's share of your budget for. And that's because you have a real opportunity in the acquisition phase to actually drive a good return. In the very beginning, you might have one single, you might have a pre-save or a pre-order or something like that. Those aren't actually engaged all of that high, you know. The reason why the buying funnel exists is because we all go through the same process, whether we're potentially going to convert or vote or buy or whatever it is. We need to be made aware of what this thing is, and what the offer is, and then we need to have the opportunity to really sit with it and understand all the reasons why you would want to potentially consume or vote differently or whatever that thing is. And so that's the consideration phase. And then in the acquisition phase, hopefully you've done all of the audience building that you could along the way. You've used links, you've used the pixels. Just to remind people, you have a pixel in your account that comes by default. And you can take this pixel and you can put it between your body tags on your website and on your e-commerce and everything else, and all of the fans that go to your website along the way, they're also pulling into your audiences. So at the very end of the campaign, now that you have the album out, people can actually buy it and get instantly rewarded for buying it, or they can press play and listen to the entire album. That's when you want to really drive your more I don't want to use the word aggressive, but more more aggressive, the slightly more aggressive advertising where you say, okay, buy now, save now, do all, do the thing that I'm asking you to do, the reason why you started to engage us in the first place. And yeah, so we say 50%, 50% for the acquisition phase. Again, you can make these a little more flexible, customize it to exactly what you have going on. But 30, 20, 50 is a very good rule to start with. Okay, so the next section here is we're talking about the rule of 7. the idea behind the rule of seven is it's sort of marketing rule. I think it's especially important now to reach people multiple times along a campaign because there's so much happening. People aren't putting out an album, they're putting out 12 singles. There are multiple devices, multiple social media platforms, and there's more music than ever basically coming out at all times. So you have to maintain their attention, and you have to be able to reach them enough times that they're actually going to remember what it is you're telling them, or not even just remember, but actually see it. To reach people one time with a banner ad is not nearly as effective as reaching them 7 times, which is it's a weird balance. You reach them 1,000 times, you're going to get very pissed off as well. So we say, not just we, a lot of people say that there's a rule of 7. Some people say that that's a little higher now, 12 or 14 or something along those lines. But you're going to have a more effective advertising campaign if you can reach them about 7 times. Now, as I mentioned earlier, our platform is auto-optimized to do all these things for you. So it's auto-optimized to reach people 7 times. You have to think about the budget, the flight dates, and what the creative should look like. But our platform will try and reach these people about 7 times. The discovery and the targeted options on the advertising, those are designed to try and generate a really good CPC, really good click-through rate. And the premium is designed to get on the most influential music websites in the world and make sure that the banners are actually seen on those websites. So no matter what you're doing, these are trying to, the platform is auto-optimizing on your behalf. In fact, if you were to upload 2 or 3 or 5 banners, excuse me, then the platform will actually auto-optimize those as well. They're going to rotate through them and in a multi-variate format, basically, try and test which campaign, which creative is going to be the best. So if it's a premium campaign, it's which ones are getting into the best placement on the most influential websites, and it's going to optimize towards that automatically for you. And if it is a prospecting or targeted advertising campaign, then it is going to try and rotate the banners to try and get maximum click-through rate and CPC. So the question that you have to ask yourself, since a lot of the complexity here is already done, is do you have the right budget in place? And to go back a step, the answer to that would be whatever your digital advertising budget is, can you reach these people approximately 7 times? And do you have these broken out into a cadence like a 30, 20, 50 media mix? Yeah, I think just really worry about the right creatives, the campaign, all of the assets that are being released along the way. And I think that's a pretty good segue into another question a lot of people have had, which are how to select the right creative. So we have always designed in my agency days, our advertising campaigns to match creatives at the phase in which we're reaching people. So if we're reaching people in the awareness phase and we're trying to push them or guide them from awareness into consideration, then we want to make sure that we have all of the elements to do that within the banner ad themselves. And if we're reaching people in the consideration phase, then we want to make sure that we're using that as an opportunity to be compelling, but not tell people the same message they've already seen before. So a lot of times people will use things in a consideration campaign like what you see here, which is a quote from NPR Music, ecstatic, an absolute blast. You can use third-party validators like that. You can, have some really interesting things. I'm going to skip ahead to acquisition. I just like this banner a lot from back in the day. This is our Fly Low campaign. This is an acquisition banner, but you can see how the consideration starts to bleed into the acquisition. In this case, it's a it's a third-party endorsement to a certain degree. It's a here's all the things that are cool about it. Not all the things, but you can only fit a certain amount onto a banner. In this case, we're starting with the artist name. You have the album name beneath that, and then to the right, you have some things that are very compelling. Okay, cool. Erykah Badu is on this. And then we have the call to action. We're trying to, at this point, drive people to purchase. So the answer is have a call to action that that fits with the acquisition phase. Let me just back up one step. So this is actually a banner from the Hollywood Bowl. This was used with a Spotify audio ad. So there's no call to action on here, actually, as you can see, but the audio ad itself had a call to action. So, you know, told people they can buy tickets now. So we use this this banner along with the audio ad on Spotify, and told people about the the National coming to play the Hollywood Bowl with local natives and daughter. That is an amazing lineup. Told people what it is and who it's for. So what it is, it's a show at the Hollywood Bowl, and who it's the National, it's local natives, it's daughter. When, that's very important in this case. So we're still in the awareness phase. We're just telling people October 11th. And then the call to action was to buy tickets. So we moved people through that pretty quickly. And then we have the Sleeping with Sirens banner ad that we had from earlier as well. And in this case, we were telling people what the who it is. This is Sleeping with Sirens, the album Madness, when it's available, giving people all the relevant information about this because we're reaching them in the awareness phase at this point. And as I mentioned before, you can have awareness banners that have very specific calls to action as well. So you're usually not telling people about the album without having a song up for purchase or stream or a music video or something along those lines. So in this case, who? This is Ghost. What? It's the new album. And when? It's August 21st. And then of course you can stream and download the new single right there and then. So these are moving people from awareness into consideration. So this is the who, the what, the where, the when, and then allow them to stream the music. If they click on this banner ad and they go to your really beautifully designed landing page, and from that landing page they can, this obviously wasn't the landing page, but from that landing page they get to see more about the album campaign that you're talking about, and then also get a stream the music immediately. Well, that's you helping to usher them from awareness into consideration. And then we have the consideration into acquisition kind of campaigns. So this is from the Mass Seduction St. Vincent album. You have the New York Times quote, which is very effective. Now, the really cool thing about the New York Times quote and the Rolling Stone quote, you can also put this banner right back on Rolling Stone. You're reaching readers on Rolling Stone with a pull quote from Rolling Stone. You can put that banner right back on Rolling Stone, which is pretty amazing. And of course, much less expensive than it could have been. And then again, we have the fly low. I always think that acquisition shouldn't, I mean, you can certainly tell people, especially if you're very effective at building and ushering people through this funnel, just go and buy it. Like this one is, I think, a great example. New Language had a House of Cards single release. They were driving people to and using their remarketing audiences really effectively. So they drove people into here before they drove people into their landing page. Of course, they were building their audiences. They were capturing people that were going to Spotify versus Amazon, et cetera. And then they drove them directly to go listen to those things, those songs directly on Amazon, directly on Spotify, and directly on Apple and stuff like that. So that's an effective way to have an acquisition campaign. And just like the colors here. Okay. And then of course we have the Ghost banner ad as well. This is another one, and this was a direct call to action, tell people to buy now in the acquisition phase. They have a great brand. So it starts off with who it is. The announcement was very compelling, I think. And then it tells people to take the action they want. So how you design your creatives, it really is about designing them for each phase of the buying funnel. In terms of what should be on the creative, that's really up to, I think the artist and the, whoever's representing the artist to bring that, the aesthetic into the advertising and make sure they match properly. But in terms of what you can do, it is make sure that in the awareness phase, you are telling people what and who and when. So new album from new language out on this date. Excuse me. And for consideration, of course, this is the why. So why should they care? Well, because New York Times called it this, and because NPR called it that, and because you're part of the ghost clergy, and so you should care. And maybe Erykah Badu and Tom York are on the album, those kinds of things. And then the acquisition. Now that you've told them what it's about, you've shown them why they should care. Now tell them what to do and how to do it. In this case, buy now, stream now, save this, that kind of thing, or buy tickets. Because again, everything that we just talked about today really does apply to really anything that you do to market in the music space. And that's about that. So thanks for listening in. I'm just getting over a cold, and appreciate you guys taking the time. We'll have more of these. I think we'll be talking about retention and more audience building stuff soon. We will follow up with an email to give you some of this collateral as well, so you have some examples that you can reference, anybody that's attended. And if you have any questions, please reach out. We are info@thefoundgroup.com. We are happy to help, and always be building your audiences. Thanks, guys. Bye.